Hello, everyone from Security Tales, Felipe. I think I look a little shadowed up here right now. Not sure why, but let's see. No, that didn't help. Let's see. Oh, it does work when I do this. Hold on. Let me push this. What'd you say, Chris?
Last time we need more light, I think.
Yeah. Oh, well, we can't see it. Hey, hon, can you do me a favor and log on to yours to see if you can hear Chris? So, give me 1 second. I hope everyone's doing well. Once again, I am away in Mexico, and we are actually doing it via the computer here. So maybe today we'll call it a blackout day where you can't see me. That might be it. Yeah, see, I'm showing up shadow. Can you hear the voice? Oh, there you go. She shut down the blinds there. Yes, that's my wife in the bikini, everybody. The blinds there. Chris, go ahead and say something.
Hey, can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Wayne?
The blinds there.
Do I sound good? Like crap. You can tell me. Hey, can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Wayne?
Yeah, you're good, Chris. You can hear you fine.
Okay.
All right. Now, let me go live on Facebook. All right, brother. They can hear you. Can hear you, Mr. Caution. And here we go, live. Here we go, everybody. Thank you so much for visiting me and Chris on Security Tales. Once again, my apologies. We are away, or I should say I am away, Mexico right now. So we decided since last week I had missed out and Chris was all PO'd at me because I didn't notify him, which did lie on my side, and I do extremely apologize. But we got to keep this going for our dedicated people and others that want to sign up to follow us. So once again, my name is Felipe Montero. My co-host Chris is on the line. Chris, say hi.
How you doing, people?
So me and Chris, we're discussing some stuff and situations that had occurred. And one of the things that Chris had brought up, I had another script that was all set up that I put some time into, but I actually left it at home. So once again, on me, and Chris came up with a great idea that I didn't know that occurred and happened, was the situation. So first of all, I want to welcome everybody back to Security Tales, the podcast where we expose the truth behind the headlines. So today we're tackling a story that should shake every taxpayer. So this is pretty interesting. So in Massachusetts, a Boston city worker, and I want to offer my apologies if I say the name wrong, Nacero Abram, just a 25-year-old, was pulled over by a Massachusetts state trooper in South Boston for tinted windows. Chris, that is correct, right? It was just a simple infraction of tinted windows?
I'm not sure on the tinted windows, to tell you the truth. I know it was just a simple stop, and the guy was watching the video. The trooper was very casual, and it was a very casual encounter initially.
Yeah, so from what I researched on, and he was pulled over for tinted windows, suspicious of tinted windows. And what happened next, right, was insane, bro, because I didn't see the video until you said it to me. And I did take a look at it, and holy God, was it insane. The dash cam shows the trooper diving headfirst into the car, a fight breaking out, and Abram tasering the trooper. So I tried to figure out, well, how the hell did he pull the taser out? But he ended up tasering Abram to try to take control from him, grabbing a satchel that was located in the front location of his vehicle on the passenger side when the trooper said, "Hey, what's in the bag?" I believe it was. When they finally arrested him, they found, I can't believe this, Chris, a Glock wrapped in his city issue sweatshirt, but not just a Glock. He modified this Glock into a fully automatic. Like, this guy wasn't just a risk. He was a walk-in war zone. So Here's the $1 million question, Chris, especially you, retired from Mass State Police. How does this guy ever get hired by the Boston City, or I should say the city of Boston? Like, I'm so baffled and confused.
I mean, forget about that. That's the after charges. How about the before charges? What did they say? Trying to read it out. He's like a seven-page fucking Bob. What else did he say? He has a conviction. It was made the following. It was found.
Well, I know he was already a criminal record involving violence and firearms, but my question is, yet somehow he ended up on the payroll wearing a city logo, getting a paycheck from Boston taxpayers, and only after his arrest with a machine gun do we hear that on, like, reviewing his hiring process. Like, he's an ex-felon. He has been busted with weapons and guns before. So my question is, like you just said, like, this guy is a criminal from before. Like, I know for a fact, owning a security company, I'm querying people. We're looking at backgrounds and all these things. Like, how doesn't Boston have that implemented?
They had to know. I mean, it's honest. I mean, his conviction for assault to murder with a 5-year prison sentence. He did probably did what, 3 of the 5?
3 to 5, yeah.
5-year prison, 5-year prison sentence, and they still hire him. And not like he's out there, whatever, cutting the lawn or whatever. From what I read, it looks like he's, working in the office environment, and I mean, it's crazy. I mean, let's give this guy a chance with a 7-page criminal record and a assault to murder charge. Let's give him another chance. It's insane.
So, Chris, one of the things that obviously we're gonna get deep into the conversation. First of all, because we both know back in the day, which we had this back in the day, it's who you knew, right? It's who you knew for a hiring process. And, you go over, you hold a few signs and you do whatever. You're talking 20, 30 years ago. And now we've known times have changed. Like, in plain English, bro, who in the fuck did this guy know in plain English that you're a toting machine gun felon with like, not even a light, like, okay, we understand drug charges and everything, but now the leniency on marijuana and hosting all these products, and you got a felon 30 years ago. Now it would just be something as you getting a misdemeanor. So I can understand that, but this guy is a known felon with a weapon. Okay, how does Mayor Michelle Wu, who just came on and said they're taking a look at how this slipped through? Chris, how in the hell did this slip through? Okay,
it's like virtually impossible. I mean, who's not going to run his Bob?
Thank you.
And not to mention, if I'm whatever. I have some authority in the Boston City Council or hiring practices, and you say, can you hire my cousin or can you hire me? And then I run your Bob, and I'm like, I don't even want to talk to you. I mean, anybody who would put their name out there for this guy, maybe they should look at if somebody did drop a dime, let's maybe get rid of him too.
Absolutely, and that's what I was going to say. This didn't slip, bro. This was a complete failure of leadership and oversight. And I have to ask, did this guy have family connections, Chris? Because we know how family connections work in City Hall. Or was this just pure incompetence? Either way, it's a disgrace. And we do know, Chris, because from our past, law enforcement background, we do know how Joe Blow, whose son is Joe Blow Jr., is promised a position because Joe Blow was on before. So somehow, some way, we're getting him on. Hence, the name follows the name, like, whose name? There's no way, Chris. Come on, bro. We know this for a fact. There's no way that an ex-felon who just did state time or federal time, whatever he was indicted on, because I couldn't see, I don't know if you could see that, but I didn't see that. But how does a felon who gets quarried and gets a background check and for weapons and machine guns and threats of violence, how does he bypass this? He isn't the only one. Okay. If you're going to tell me that this is the only slip up, bro, come on, Chris. Seriously?
Yeah, well, the other slip up that they just initially found, and I'm sure there's more, is the level 3 sex offender who works for like the Parks and Recreation Department.
I did not even hear that, and that's not even. I'm not smirking because I think it's funny. I'm smirking because I'm embarrassed that I don't even know, bro. It's just it's so interesting in what's going on, and
it's Robert Cloud, 37 of Dorchester, worked as a heavy equipment operator for the Parks Department. And Cloud is listed as a level 3 sex offender, which is the most dangerous level, with 2 convictions for indecent assault and battery on a child, and 1 conviction for open and gross lewdness.
So let's just go back, Chris, and I just need to ask this. So obviously, us being from Boston, and we know what you had just stated. What was it? You said Boston Park?
Yeah, Boston. Well, he was, he works for the Parks Department, so, but still, you shouldn't be working there, and you're, in some way or another, you're around children, which is even worse.
Huh. Tommy wanted to know. I'm just writing back, everybody. He wanted to know if the sheriff story got buried.
What sheriff?
That's what I'm thinking. I'm writing to him, bro. This
he might be talking about the Suffolk sheriff. He briefly what I know about it, he forced this weed company. They had like an IPO, I think it was, and usually to get on an IPO, you got to know somebody because the stock comes out at $10 and it almost always goes way up. Forced him to sell him like $50,000 again. This is proximities of the stock. So he's like, you need to sell me $50,000 worth of the stock. So they did. And then I guess after a couple of months, the friggin' stock tanked and was doing well, and just for a number, say 25,000. So he lost half his money. So as opposed to just shut your mouth and, try to ride it out, he went back to the company again and was like, I want my 50 grand back.
from the movie The Casino. When I get out of jail, I'm just gonna beat you down until I get my money back. We'll touch base on that, but I know we kind of put some time into this story, and I'm gonna be honest with you, Tommy. I did not know that, so I guess we'll definitely dive deep into that story. But right now, we're just gonna keep track with this one because I think it opens up to a bigger venue. And as Chris had just pointed out, now you have a level 3 sex offender working for the public parks that I did not know about. So, Chris, I know for a fact a very dear friend of mine who's just gotten a very high position. He worked for the municipal parks as a park ranger and rode horses around there. So I knew the stipulations and things that he had to go through in order to get that job. So here we are with a stage 3 sex offender. How many sexual cases did this guy have against him?
He had like 2 convictions.
2 convictions. How does this gentleman?
Which means he did it 1,000 times.
Yeah, and I use that term very loosely. How did that gentleman get onto the department? How did another guy who basically develops and makes weapons that serve 3 to 5 years in either a federal or state time, how does he bypass this system? Is there something really going on? Is the question.
Somebody's I'd have to say it's either severe incompetence, like you said, or somebody's dropping a dime.
So, yeah, well, Tommy's saying, Chris, you were right about that story. Tommy, now you got to make us dive deep into that next one. But let's just talk about something, Chris. So, because we both come from a law enforcement, you from the streets and me from the prison system, we both know there's civil services that we have to take. Now, does the municipalities, do they do civil service test on that, or do they just apply for work and you get on? I got kind of confused with that.
You took like for Boston City employee?
Yes.
I would be 99% that's just I'm pretty sure that would just be applying, and like I said, who like remember when it was actually a coveted job, fucking toll taker. When we had tolls,
yeah,
that was a job. My friend's wife did it, and that was a job you had to know somebody to get.
Yeah,
Like it's not like it's the best job, sitting out there. But
They get paid though, Chris. They get paid, brother.
And you get paid well.
Get paid very well, very well. So I was pretty interested because as we were speaking on this, and I watched the video, and I'm just trying to figure out if I'm able to get the video going. But I am using both phones right now. But if for those of you that did not see the video, you really need to see this video. You need to type up Boston employee versus state police. You guys really need to get this video up and take a look. And right off the bat, Chris, and because we've both dealt with some heavy individuals, you could tell this guy was not he was not trying to comply, right? Would be the term when you guys come up to the window, I need to comply. He was very agitated. He was very evasive. You could see the whole time he was dealing with this, he kept looking at the bag, which gave the Mass State Police, and Chris, you might want to correct me on this since obviously you've dealt with this for 26 years. As you approach the vehicle, right, and you see something suspicious and you ask me if you could take a look at it, and I deny it. But then at the same time, I'm trying to hide it. Don't you guys usually inquire about it? Like I'm kind of confused because I want to see if this case possibly could be dropped. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to base my observation on this to say, is all of a sudden this attorney got to come out saying, well, it was tinted windows. You couldn't have came up to his vehicle. Like, who comes up to a vehicle for tinted windows? You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to figure out what holes could actually win this case for him.
Well, I mean, the tinted windows is pretty easy to spot, and 35% is, it's pretty easy to spot when it's dark. So the stop was, I think, good. And you see the interaction. He was very casual. He's like, "Yeah, I'm Boston City Police. Yeah, no problem. And he already ran. I believe, based on what I saw, he already ran the guy's box, so he knew he had a weapons charges in his past.
Yeah, and he asked them, right? Didn't he say to him like, or do you have any criminal something? I think it was, and he says, "Yeah, weapons." I think I couldn't hear it, to be honest.
I don't think he admitted to it because he just kind of asked like what's in the bag, and if the guy just would have not gone for the bag or done grab for it, because it was obvious. It's not like you said, "Hey, can I see what's in the bag?" and you said no, and you just didn't do anything. You just kind of sat there. You'd be tough pressed to get there, but then you could see the trooper after he asked that, like seconds later, diving into the friggin' car. So the guy was going for the bag for whatever stupid reason. If he just would have played it cool, it would have been a lot tougher for the guy to get in the car.
Yeah, and then what I noticed also was the guy was trying to put it in drive while the trooper was there, and I kept seeing the trooper reaching over, trying to take it in and putting it in park, and then he got lasered with his own laser, trying to put it in park.
Yeah, because he had to drop the taser in order to fucking put it in park, and then the guy picks up the taser and tased him in the, I believe it was the guts, in the stomach, and because the guy was going to try to drive off, hoping he can try to push the guy out the window while he's driving.
Yeah, like all kidding aside, where was he going to go and what was he going to do with the Mass State Police? That's basically in your vehicle and trying to get away. You know what I mean? Like, what do you expect? Like, what are you going to do?
He's just, he's just hoping to get out of there. If the guy doesn't see the gun and say he got away, or say the trooper jumped out of the car real quick, that's going to lead to some charges, but it's going to be significantly less than if he gets away and gets to dump the gun. So he knew he had the gun. He had a fucking full auto gun, which is, additional charges. So he was just trying to limit his charges, and could have severely injured the trooper if he stayed in the car, which he would have. Once the car gets going over 20 miles, I don't want to jump out of a car at 20.
No.
Faster.
And I understand that. So, this kind of led to me just thinking, and I kind of wanted to get into the civil service part of it when we were discussing this. Do you think that jobs like this should also be brought into civil services?
I don't think it should be brought into civil service because that's just that's just a test of your common knowledge, or maybe not even IQ, but just test your common knowledge. And, it should be just like any other job, but there's also should be extra level of expectation because you are working for the city, just like a cop. I mean, you have an extra level of expectation because, you're a cop, you're a city employee, you're technically being paid by the people of Boston, but so there should be an extra level of expectations from your character and in your criminal record.
Well, and that's interesting you brought that forward because I started like researching the civil service exam and see where the differences lied from the times me and you have done it to others. Now, it's interesting you said this, Chris, because you had said something that kind of was part of the new civil service regulations. So it states in the civil service is the state's hiring system for cops, firefighters, and city jobs. Okay. So wouldn't this be considered a city job?
It could be, but also, see, I mean, I don't know. I don't think so. But again, I don't know if somebody else knows, they could chime in. But he could also be, when they say city job, they could be referring to, fire and police. I don't think working for the Parks Department or something like that, or, working for the mayor's office is civil service. I could be wrong, but I think when they say city job, they're talking about, firemen, cops, and stuff like that.
Okay.
Because I really don't think.
Yeah, because what I was like going through the process and saying, you basically take a test, you get a score, and your name goes on a list. Cities have to hire from the top of the list, not necessarily the person they want, not necessarily the one with the cleanest record, but whoever filled in the bubbles the best. Now, when I was looking at it through the hiring process, through the whole thing, and how this person with a vicious background and many others, now you're telling me that basically there's a baby rapist basically working for the city of Boston also, how these people bypass this. And I'm finding there's a lot of problems, and there's problems with the civil service. That means you can end up hiring idiots who know how to pass a test, but have no street sense, no character, and in the same cases, violent history. So here we go with two individuals that have violent histories, and yet, and I hate to admit it, to me, it tends to have some type of book smart, but street dumb sensibility of getting these jobs. Like obviously, Chris, it's not, if me and you were to go to apply for these jobs, it's funny. Like right now, me and you, they say, oh, you guys are over skilled for this job or whatever. But yet you got a guy who's toting a weapon, making machine guns, and then another one who's a rapist, whose qualifications supersede our qualifications. So I'm kind of confused with this. And then I go into the civil service and I see this stuff. And like in 2024, Massachusetts tried to fix this with a hybrid system. I find that interesting, that term, Chris, hybrid system. Now, 50% of hires still come from the last list, okay, from the test list, I should say, but 50%. Now, really think about this, Chris, and I don't know if you knew this. 50% can be chosen locally, meaning chiefs and mayors can actually pick people they know are qualified, like veterans or trusted community members. But the fact is, we're still stuck hiring half from a broken pipeline. That's why we're seeing disasters like this. And I think this touches every type of job right now.
Yeah, I mean, I do know that we started the program, and I think you copied Boston, where you can become what we call it student trooper or whatever. And you basically work for you work for us, and you're in the program. You get a really good paycheck. You get like 3 weeks vacation to start, and you kind of work for the state police. And there's not enough work for them. They really don't have anything to do because they're not troopers. So they're they're just kind of watching and listening, and there's really not a lot of work for them to do. And I think we had like 50 I had like 50. And like I said, they get paid well, and a certain amount, I don't remember anymore, but a certain amount of every academy class going forward has to come from these people who didn't have to, and they qualified by being in the program. and all they have to do is get a 70 on the exam, and then they're eligible because they're in the program and they got a 70, which means they passed, so they can be hired with a guy who got a 99.
Jesus. So, Chris, let me ask you something. You spent years in the Massachusetts State Police, and I appreciate that. 26 years, lieutenant. You ended up retiring as a lieutenant. But be real with me. Did civil service bring in the best cops, or did it handcuff departments into hiring whoever bubbled in the right answer?
Well, it depends. Our list, when we took it, our list was our list. There was no other list. You took it, and there was only one job you were applying for.
Yep.
Just like our promotional system wasn't the best, it's gotten significantly worse since they put it into post regulations. It's gotten significantly more biased. It wasn't the best, but you say to the person complaining, give me an alternative. Unfortunately, it was based on how much you studied, how much time you could dedicate to studying. Did you have time to study at work? Did you want to give up 6 months of your life and study your ass off? Are you just really smart? Are you book smart? Can you memorize stuff? And it wasn't the best system, but we could come up with a real alternative. So to answer your question, it's not the best system, but you got to come up with an alternative, and that's why you take the test. And okay, you're smarter than the other guy, so you get on. But then the significant vetting, you got to see a shrink. You got to have. They came to my house, talked to my neighbors, talked to my wife alone. They wouldn't even let me be there when they talked to my wife. They talked to friends, families, all kinds of stuff, and did a significant. And then, of course, the academy itself did a significant amount of vetting. But you only can do what you can do. It's not the best system, but it's pretty good.
So one thing that I just heard you through the story. Are you saying, I remember when we took the exam, it was a separate test for the Mass State Police. Have they merged the civil service tests all together with not only
Yes.
with, so now it's the
Yes.
police. So now if you don't want to be a cop and you want to be a Mass State Police, you could do either or now? I didn't know that.
Yeah, when you take the civil service exam, because it's actually coming up. I have somebody's kid taking it. It's coming up very soon. You already had to apply for it. I think it was by the middle of August or something like that. But you can check. You just take the test, and I've never taken it, so I believe you check Boston City, you check Woburn, you check Mass State Police, check MBTA.
Really?
Yeah, you just check whatever you want. It was very expensive, and not that it wasn't worth it, but it was very expensive for us to run our own tests. Because we had to go to an outside, like we made up the questions. You go to an outside testing agency, they make the test, they score it. They make sure the questions are fair, the questions are accurate. We have to look at the questions, so there's a lot to it. But it was just simpler and cheaper just to piggyback, because we did our own test, everybody else did civil service, so we just piggybacked, on the civil service exam. Okay.
So I want to get back to what stirred this whole conversation in the beginning. So once again, I wanted to set it up and utilize you as a Mass State Police. And I'm sorry, Tommy Titus just wrote in. It says, we've all known the book. Smart supervisors, they could never carry our water. But man, they were great armchair warriors telling us what to use on the force. I would like to elaborate what Tommy's actually speaking, and that's 100% true. Is you have your foot soldiers, and the foot soldiers are basically the guys that handled the task that the supervisors could not. Your sergeants, your lieutenants, and your captain, they were great at dictating for us what to do. But also, if responsibilities came back, and let's say we did, overuse some type of tactic or force, it's the sergeant or lieutenant would be like, that's not what I told them what to do. And they would actually be the armchairs for us and they would take the credit if it went well, and then they wouldn't take the heat if it didn't. So it's kind of funny who we place in command these days. And Chris, I believe you guys deal with the same thing. It's the big cheese that constantly talks the shit, but when the shit goes wrong, it was you that did it and made that amicable decision, right? Or maybe not. Maybe I'm speaking on your behalf.
No, we have some good ones. You have some bad ones. I mean, when I was down at the Brockton riots after that guy got killed, that started this whole thing off. I got hit in the face with a brick. The one time I had my face shield down, which I almost never even wore it, let alone had it down. And our big boss, the number 2 in command, was out there right in front with us, and just screaming at the people and stuff like that. And he was pretty good, because you have to. It's silly, but when you have a gathering like that, you actually have to get out in front, which is kind of stupid, and you have to tell them that you're unlawful, and you have to disperse, and you have to say it 3 times, I believe. So the guys out there trying to freaking tell them that they have to disperse while they're throwing bricks and frozen water bottles at us.
Jesus. So I kind of want to get back to the beginning of the story. So since I've warmed you up on the Abram case, how does a guy with a criminal record involving guns and a violence get hired by the city of Boston in this first place? Was this bad background checks or the civil service system failing? So there is a process that they use, and I don't know exactly what the process is, but you do have to do something in order to work for the municipalities in Boston. So my question is, I am so baffled. I am so confused because obviously it's not the first, and you just told me 2 people now. Obviously, one, they both violent crimes. One of them is a sexual offender, and the other one's a violent person with a gun. And please, I don't care what anyone's going to say to me and Chris. It's you have a gun illegal, and you can modify it into a machine gun. Your intent is only one thing. It isn't, this is what I do. It's not in your house. It's not secured. It's not locked. You're actually carrying it in your knapsack to and from work. What would bring the value of that? Seriously. So, Chris, let's just get back to that. What do you think? From hearing, from the beginning of the civil service to this crime to this case, what did they do? I just can't stop thinking about it.
I mean, if somebody didn't run his block, that's just incompetence. I think somebody, he knew somebody, or somebody wanted to hire him for whatever reason that I won't go into. But there has to be, if you know that person, I think we said this already. If you know that person and you were the one who said, hire Ibrahim, then I think you need to lose your job too, because I got a good quick real life story. I probably had a year and a half on, and I got a phone call. So I'm a new guy, and it was a lieutenant from another job. So yes sir, no sir. He's like, hey, can and this happens. Sorry, people. Can you you wrote my friend Joe a speeding ticket. Any chance we can do something with that? And I was like, yeah, okay, sir. I go, but I have to tell you one thing before, I do this favor for you. He's like, what's that? He goes, we arrested this guy 2 weeks ago with 2 8-balls as well. And he's like, he's like, this is where it comes to know who you're vouching for. He's like, I am very sorry. Forget I ever called and said goodbye.
So what was he going to do? Ask for a favor to have you drop the charges?
No. It was I had him on a speeding ticket, and then we arrested him 2 weeks prior for a couple of 8-balls of coke.
Oh.
So he's thinking I think it was my nephew or cousin or something that the nephew just got a little ticket. So he's like, all right, whatever, got a ticket. And then when I told him that we arrested him 2 weeks ago for 8-ball, he's like, sorry. And he's just like, I apologize for even calling you. And he just hung up the phone.
Wow. But him himself, he thought he was just calling on behalf of a speeding ticket.
Right.
But
He
then
knew it was a speeding ticket, but he didn't know the guy was freaking running around with coke either. You know, 'cause you call, you know, like you know, you call and say, yeah, I'm vouching for this guy Joe.
Yeah.
You know, so now you're vouching for him. It's like, all right, hey, you're vouching for the guy who's, you know, selling coke. And you're like, oh no, I didn't know that. Sorry.
Wow, Jesus, that's kind of a funny story. Well, it is a funny story. Because I could tell you, I did call you one time and you said to me, are you kidding me? This guy's been busted for carrying or using or something. And I said, honestly, guy for 15 years. I've never seen him do anything in front of me. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I said, I remember, like, I think you might have had 4 or 5 years on, and I had a friend of mine get pulled over, and he owns a company, and he was going over the Tobin, and it was you that gave the ticket. And I said, let me see if I could call you, because the guy always took care of me. And you said, hey, you know what? You said, Junior, that ain't going to happen. And I said, I respect that. And you didn't have to tell me why. You just says, that's not going to happen. But then you said, he's been busted with so much drugs and everything. And hold on. Sorry, everybody. I dropped the call from Chris. Trying to get him on right now. Oh, see what you get for being in Mexico? Been down here for the week. Getting home tomorrow. It was my birthday, so we came down to celebrate it. And the wife took me down. It was awesome. I really don't understand how I dropped the call with Chris. Because he's not physically with me at times. We tend to constantly, through all these different channels from the YouTube, Facebook, we're always running into issues. And I do extend my apologies. Well, needless to say, I did have a bunch of other questions for him. And, you know, one of my major questions was I wanted to ask and say, I don't know. You hear me? All right. Here's the interesting part. I can actually hear my wife discussing medical stuff on her phone for some unknown reason, which is very strange. So Chris, are you there now?
I'm there. Yeah.
All right. My apologies. It has to be me in Mexico. So one of my things that I was bringing up was a story that I had asked you a long time ago. I think you might have had 4 years on, and it was just about, hey, can you hook me up? This guy's got a ticket. You said, no, Junior, I can't. I said, no problem. You go, but I'm going to explain to you even on top of it. This guy's had more possession charges and everything on him and this and that. And I said, listen, I've known the guy 15 years. I've never seen him do a drug, nor that I even know that, because I wouldn't even have asked you. He was just a great guy that was in my life. And I appreciated him. And then when I found that out, to be honest with you, I felt he placed me in a position of value that I had contacted someone to try to help out, because he's had numerous amount of tickets on top of that using his company's truck. And I felt it was an embarrassment that he had asked me that. And because I didn't want to see him lose his license, I tried to extend my hand to him, that I became no longer friends with him just because he placed me in a position. So I totally understand what you mean. And I felt I shouldn't have taken advantage of a great friend and family member like you to try to help someone else out that probably could have gotten you in trouble for doing it. So that's why I don't call for anybody anymore. And I don't even call for myself. I just deal with my situations on my own. But Chris, I'm interested. When the public sees city workers fighting troopers and carrying machine guns, how can they possibly trust the system in protecting them? Like, what type of system are we running? Like who's actually running the vetting process is my question.
I don't know. I mean, hopefully they'll actually get to the bottom of it and figure out. I mean, I only can think of those two things that we mentioned as the possible source.
Well,
But,
you said the Mass State Police vets it out, right? Or for the exams and stuff, and then you guys do your internal things.
For our people, not for them.
So it is. So do you feel it's the their people that do it internally also?
I would think so, and I would think and hope somebody's friggin' running the guy's Corey. And let's not forget, not only they should run the guy's Corey before he's hired, they should also have some system in place where they run the Corey, whatever, every year or two. Because if something happens, I don't think the guy's going to tell you. I mean, it depends on who's reading Corey and whether or not they whether or not they're doing it, whether or not they give a crap, or whether they were told to freaking turn a blind eye to it. I mean, I did another Corey story quick. I did. I wanted to help out on my son's baseball team. I don't know nothing about baseball. I'll do anything. I don't care. I'll hand out baseball. I'll hand out gum. And they're like, oh, well, nobody wants to run Corys, because it's not a fun job. You have to run Corys on all the baseball coaches. So any coach that runs a Corey, you have to run the Corey. So I ran everybody's Corey. I did it right. Did it through the baseball team, not through the job. And, I knew this guy, whatever, we'll use Joe again, was a baseball coach for like 4 or 5 years. And I ran his Corey, and I see on his Corey, it said, I think it was impersonating a police officer, something like that was the charge. And I was like, coaching my kid is a privilege. It's not, it's not a right. Because I couldn't even, I couldn't get on. It was actually very hard to volunteer. So I went to the president. I didn't tell everybody. So I went to the president. I'm like, hey, Joe's got charges back, 15 years ago, impersonating a police officer. And no one's ever said anything to you. And he's like, oh, okay. And, from then on, he was done. He wasn't allowed to coach because, he shouldn't have charges like that, when you're, with kids. I know it wasn't anything bad, but, something, again, it's a privilege. It's not a right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I definitely agree with you on that. I don't think you did anything right. Wrong. I totally agree with you handling it that way. So one of my questions is, or I should say, it's not towards you, Chris. It's actually to Michelle Wu. It's when the public sees a city worker fighting troopers and carrying machine guns, right? My question is to Mayor Wu. Mayor Wu says this is just a slip through. Chris, screw her and the goddamn terminologies for this. It's a slip through. Do you buy that? Or do you think this is a case of City Hall looking the other way, maybe even protecting people with family or political connections? And me and you know what that's about, brother. And then it's like, I think, as you said, not only should outside investigators, I feel on my side that outside investigators should step into this and really open up this and look at the demographics of the hiring process and start from the beginning, even if it is from the beginning where Michelle Wu got nominated into her position down, because there is no goddamn way, Chris, no way that nobody knew about this kid. Come on, he carried a machine gun to work. What does that mean? One day, a fellow worker and him getting a little argument. What's he gonna do? Run to his knapsack and put a piece to his head? And Tommy just wrote, "What happens down in Mexico stays in Mexico." I think, Tommy, you should stop drinking those freaking ginkgobas or whatever those mixed boba drinks you're drinking. Too much sugar, brother. Too much sugar. So, Chris, I think we definitely got to stay following up on this, because this shouldn't lie still. There's too much money from the city, from all of us given to taxpayers, and other things that are going on that it definitely shouldn't lie still.
5-year prison sentence, assault, attempted murder, or assault to murder is that's not a slip up. An OUI is a slip up, something like that. Or if he had no charges, and this was his first charge, okay, I can see that. If he didn't have a record and now he's carrying a gun, well, that's not your fault. But maybe you should look a little bit closer at people. But a 5-year prison sentence, that's not a slip up.
So, Chris, what I also kind of wanted, obviously we're going to be ending soon, but I kind of wanted to do a directive hit towards Mayor Wu. The people of Boston deserve to know, how did your administration let a man with a violent criminal record and firearms history slip through into a city job? Were the background checks skipped, ignored, or was this the case of protecting connected hires? And if you couldn't catch this, what else are you missing? And I find it interesting, Chris, that you had brought up the shitbag, in plain English, that's working the public parks, that has a third degree sex offender. And hold on, something from Tommy. I nearly destroyed my own boys' careers, never letting anyone go easy on them. All I ever asked of both of my boys was honesty, integrity. Chris, Corey is an important part of the coaching. There you go. He definitely agrees with your story, Chris, and I definitely agree with Tommy. He's got his boys in the department now also, and very proud that they following in his footsteps. But one of my things, Chris, that also brought some value of sense was during the researching, I found something pretty interesting, which was a big trend to me, and maybe we can keep this story alive, but also checking the back end of this. Like, let's be honest, this isn't just about one city worker, right? It's about Massachusetts already handing out driver's license to illegal immigrants. Now I'm hearing about pushes to give them social security numbers and other benefits. So the question is, what's next? If our leaders can't even protect the hiring pipeline for city jobs, are they really protecting the taxpayers at all? Or are they just opening the doors wider for more dangerous mistakes? Like municipal programs mock, right? Like maybe this is what we're really seeing, an open door initiative. Because right now the door is wide open for unqualified, dangerous, or even illegal candidates to get through and end up in the jobs that put the public at risk. And once they're in, it's taxpayers who pay the price. So, Chris, the reason why I was bringing that up is, so now we're giving illegal immigrants without, we can't check their backgrounds internationally. If their backgrounds in their countries weren't checked, they could be murderers, rapists, drug dealers, and everything, correct? And now they can come over here and apply for the job, as this guy did, and obviously bypass the system and get on. Am I wrong with that or no? Because maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're right, because they may not have a bomb system. They may not have it computerized. It may be freaking paper. They may not have a freaking system altogether. And let's not forget, if you have 20 items on your BOP, that's only times you were caught. It doesn't include all the times that you weren't caught. So, I don't, when they say this guy didn't have a record, whatever they're referring to, somebody from out of the country didn't have a record or anything. They're just because they probably don't have a record system.
So you do agree with me that due to the fact that obviously we let this guy in that has a machine gun, we let in this guy that's a rapist, and I'm saying we because we are taxpayers and it's our money that was supposedly used to do all these background investigations. So now I believe, because we don't stand on our own to speak on what the matter is of concerning situations like this, and we're continuously letting little slip-ups like this. Luckily, this was something that a well-skilled state trooper saw something and acted on something. And from the help of a off-duty Boston police officer, they were able to control this individual in order to stop this individual. So the sad part is now we're also saying, well, you know what? We got some illegals in here that this is Boston. We're a sanctuary city. They need to get their socials. They need to contribute back to society and pay back since they're here. But what else does that open up is my question. So from Tommy, Mayor Wu needs a federal wake-up call. The Washington, D.C. just got it, and it's coming next week. Well, Tommy, I don't know what to say about that. I'm hoping. I continuously hear things, but every time I speak to Chris, Chris comes up with more bullshit, and I'm just confused. We have some individuals here that veterans and everybody else that aren't being hired, and yet we're having people like this being hired. So, Chris, would you like to answer Tommy with the Washington D.C. thing?
Yeah, hopefully, what was it Holman? Yeah, hopefully
Yeah, Holman
will come here and enforce and clean up everything they can. And
but didn't Michelle Wu threaten him and said you better stay away or out of Boston or something like that? I swore that she said something like that.
Well, I'm sure he would have got, if she did, I'm sure he would have got a good chuckle out of that. But, yeah, no, they need to get here. And I mean, the huge, I'll use an old man thing, the huge linchpin here is they got to get the locals got to be able to help, and in Massachusetts, they can't. If the locals were able to help, and the locals will be able to grab people up, and it just happenstance, you pull a guy over and you happen to find somebody, that would expedite this process exponentially.
You know what I find interesting, Chris, since you said that, and everyone talks about community and what we need to do together to build this back up and this and that. But yet what I've noticed is continuations of people pulling out cell phones. Instead of help, they want to record to get more hits or to get someone to buy their phone systems or whatever they recorded off it. But instead of helping, they end up just filming it.
No, it's something's got to happen. I unfortunately I don't see it getting bounced out of office.
No, I don't either.
Mr. Kraft is trying, so we'll see.
Well, I would like to say for my closing, at the end of the day, civil service was supposed to prevent corruption, but instead it's become a shield that protects bad hires and forces and good departments to settle for the wrong people. And I'm not only extending this out in the civil service. Part of it is because I thought the municipalities hire from the civil service list. So if I'm wrong by that, then I think their failures are just as large. So Mayor Wu in the city of Boston, you failed the public by letting the guy slip through. And if leaders don't have the guts to fix hiring from the ground up, then the public is the one left in danger. Massachusetts deserves better than excuses. It deserves accountability, transparency, and leaders who put safety above politics. So this is a situation. Hola. Room service? Oh, just in the drawer. Thank you. Gracias, amigo. But sorry everybody, room service came. You know what I'm saying? We're ending it out in a big bang. But
lunch is here.
No lunch yet. No lunch. But once again, it deserves accountability, transparency, and leaders who put safety above politics. And that was my closing. Chris, what would you like to say?
I would just love to see, I hate to use the word, but, transparency and just things done the right way. And, people who are given these good jobs with the city or whatever they're given, it's just, somebody needs to check into this stuff. It's, every time you turn around hearing something about Massachusetts, it's just very disheartening. It makes me want to leave the state, but unfortunately I can't for another several years.
Isn't it shameful, since you just said that you would be interested in leaving the state? Because I haven't seen any positive reactions that have occurred in Massachusetts, let alone. There hasn't been anything that's want to keep me here. And I know other individuals got to say, where else is even better? And you know what? The only reason why you're saying it is because you haven't been anywhere else. So my thing is if we're paying more money in taxes all the time now, and it just keeps to be going higher and higher and higher, are we paying more taxes because of the people that are above us and mistakes that they're making? And where does the credibility lie? Do they pay the same as us? when they're getting up there. So I know my real estate taxes have gone up, my water taxes have gone up. There hasn't been more people brought into the community. There hasn't been any new buildings going on. And I do apologize, Chris. I'm totally wrong with that. There are new buildings that are going on, and they're called apartment buildings that are solely owned by other corporations. So while these people are building their buildings into our systems and our corporations and our towns, where our taxes are going up because they get cutbacks and everything or federal grants to build up in the city. And now we're paying for them because now we have more population that's going on, and now it's subjected to us paying. Why can't they be responsible to pay the brunt of it because they're building in your city or town? And why are we absorbing the cost of that?
Well, I mean, I don't want to tell you what